You are listening to episode 13, unlucky number 13 of the Dork Age podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about Doctor Strange. We got to see it over the weekend.
Yeah.
Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders. Last week in Dirk Gently. A whole shitload of new trailers that popped up while we've been gone. And finally watched Black Mirror. Most of it anyway. I've been kind of going back and forth into different episodes. But first, the most important news of this generation is that for the first time, in 108 years, the Chicago Cubs won the World Series.
Yep.
Do you care at all about that?
Nope.
Okay, let's move on. All right, Doctor Strange. We watched it yesterday, and first off, I'm going to preface this whole conversation with the fact that we went to a late show, and I'm very much a morning person, and had a hard time staying awake through Doctor Strange, so you might have to take me through it a little bit. So basically, Benedict Cumberbatch plays Dr. Stephen Strange. He's a world-renowned neurosurgeon.
Yes.
Very good show-offy kind of, bad boy surgeon, if that's such a thing.
It's honestly, like, the general sentiment of it is, what if Dr. Gregory House got magic powers?
On some of the reviews that I had seen on Doctor Strange, a lot of people made that comparison. He's basically Dr. House. And he does have kind of an arrogance about him. In fact, it's called out quite a bit by the Ancient One. Who is lovingly portrayed by Tilda Swinton.
And I think she did a great job.
Yeah, and first of all, ever since I saw Snowpiercer, did you ever see that movie?
Yeah.
I was just like, this Tilda Swinton chick is awesome.
Yeah. Everything I've ever seen her in, I've enjoyed.
So whenever I heard that they cast her as the Ancient One, I was pretty excited. Now, I am not like the biggest Doctor Strange aficionado.
Of course not. Neither am I.
Right, so it didn't bother me about that. I know a lot of diehards get a little upset when things are quote-unquote whitewashed or changed as far as gender and everything goes, but it didn't affect me at all, so it didn't really affect my enjoyment of the film any less. Now, it kind of starts off with all that like Inception-like building, twisting kind of stuff going on, so that was pretty cool. A lot of good visual effects.
Oh yeah,
I guess. And can take it away, Chris, because I don't have a lot that I can say about it because it's kind of, I just remember it in flashes.
Yeah, you were telling me that you almost started to nod off a little bit towards the end. I did
nod off a few times, and it's like I'm just trying to stay awake, but you're in that kind of in-between state where it's kind of just really hard to follow what's going on.
I watched a movie on HBO the other night that I did that with. Like, I watched the first half hour, 45 minutes of it, and then I started to nod off, and I would catch little bits and pieces of the middle.
Close my eyes while they're talking.
And then I woke up again, like, fully woke up in, like, the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Right, so what did you think of the movie?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. The visuals, were pretty stunning. I don't know that we needed to have seen it in 3D. Because while the spectacle of the visuals was awesome, I don't think that it was necessary to see in 3D. Because, like, nothing in those visuals was still, like, popping out at you at all.
Right.
Seeing it on the big screen alone, I think, would have been enough.
I think I kind of agree on that. I tend to go to 3D movies if it's available in 3D, because if I'm going to leave the house to go see a movie, I want to have an experience that I can't have at home. Yeah. That's kind of my philosophy on 3D movies. So that's why I'm kind of glad that I did this. So how did you...
I would have preferred to see it like in 2D, but in IMAX.
Right.
So the screen itself would have been massive. It would have been all I could see.
I would prefer to see more 3D movies the way that the Hobbit trilogy was done, in the high frame rate.
Yeah.
Did you happen to catch any of those?
I didn't see any of those in 3D.
Right. Well, in the first Hobbit movie, at least, I know that they put them out where it was 3D, but it was also select theaters would do it in this super high frame rate, which basically kind of almost made it look like it was shot on video.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, but whenever I saw it, that was to 3D that I had ever seen in the movie theater. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of those Hobbit movies. I think
Yeah.
they were a little overkill.
Yeah.
But with the high frame rate, it was like you're right there.
Yeah.
So I would like to see more things like that. And I think the 3D technology still isn't as good as it could be.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Because while it's 3D, it's like you have a 2D layer in front of another 2D layer in front of another 2D layer.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it feels to me. And hopefully someday that technology will get there to where it actually looks like we are like, you know.
Yeah, where you could
Right
reach
there.
out and theoretically touch
But
something.
high frame rate was the closest.
Yeah, and I can fully agree with that because already watching a high frame rate movie, because I didn't see the Hobbit movies in 3D, but I did see them with that higher frame rate.
Right. And I had to drive to another town
Yeah.
to go see it in that specific theater. that
Yeah,
I played it.
but watching a movie like that, it kind of makes it seem already, even in 2D, like you're in the room. So seeing that movie, high frame rate in 3D, you're almost legitimately in the room. And
Right.
that's kind of mind-blowing. But it reminded me a little bit of Avatar, which is a terrible movie.
Are you talking about Doctor Strange?
No,
Or
the
Hobbit?
3D
Oh,
the 3D
okay.
things
Go on.
reminded, like, the best movie that I ever saw in 3D was Avatar.
But it wasn't the best movie.
No,
I
it's a
ever saw.
terrible movie. It's a terrible movie, but it was the best movie that I'd ever seen it in 3D because there were moments, especially, you know, with all the, you know, the colors in that world and the way that they did the 3D, because it was shot to be seen in 3D.
Right.
So a lot of the visual effects were in your face
Yeah.
during the entirety of that movie.
Never saw it in 3D.
Yeah, see, I did, and I'm glad that I saw it in 3D, because if I had seen it in 2D, I would have just been like, this is a terrible movie. Why did anyone ever think this was going to be a good idea?
Well, back to Doctor Strange. So Benedict Cumberbatch, I thought that, you know, being a fan of Sherlock and other works of his, I thought it would be weird to see him or hear him use an American accent, but that kind of went away real quick. He's a great actor, and I think that just kind of shows it. Now
I feel
it kind of feels like this is like they're kind of setting Doctor Strange up to almost be a replacement Tony Stark in the Marvel universe. What do you think about that? Because we know that Robert Downey Jr. isn't going to do it forever,
right.
and they're going to
And I
need one
think
of
he's
those
only
leading man
contracted-
characters.
Yeah, and I think he's only contracted through the end of Infinity Wars.
What do you think a scene like between Doctor Strange and Tony Stark would even be like? Because they're both very similar characters, not in superpowers or profession, but in like attitude, right? Because they're
Yeah.
both kind of very like alpha male, very sarcastic, condescending characters. So I would love to see like a dialogue between the two of them. And hey, you know what? Get Rocket Raccoon, Doctor Strange, and Tony Stark in a room together and just, you know, let the magic happen.
See who kills each other the first.
I think that would be great. So visually, it's very far apart from really anything we've seen in a Marvel movie.
Oh, yeah.
Very like mind-bendy. Just that scene at the very beginning. Well, not at the very beginning, but when he goes to learn from the Ancient One, and she
the
kind of
open your eye thing.
right, and kind of pushes him through this whole, you know, the whole multiverse.
Yep.
And now that this multiverse is established within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it feels like we can have a lot more like one-off multiverse stories.
Potentially.
Marvel Zombies, maybe.
Ooh.
Could you
Deadpool
imagine?
kills the Marvel Universe?
Well, I don't know if we'll see that anytime soon. But yeah, Doctor Strange was, from what I remember of it, it was very cool. Now, and this might be spoiler territory if you haven't seen it yet, but did I hear correctly that the Ancient One died?
Yes.
Okay, how did she die? Because I think that's one of the parts my eyes were closed.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember now.
It's like we just saw it less than 24 hours ago.
I know. She got stabbed by the bad guy.
Yeah. So how did your boy Mads Mikkelsen do? Because
Oh,
he didn't
he was
really,
great.
because he didn't really captivate me hardly at all.
Did you?
He seemed very generic as far as a bad guy. In fact, what's his name? Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah.
The dude from Serenity.
Yeah.
As Mordo. He, obviously, they're setting him up to be the next villain in the Doctor Strange universe.
Spoiler alert, bro.
Well, it's okay. We've already given
Yeah,
the
we already,
spoiler alert.
yeah, okay, fair
They're
enough.
setting him up to be the next villain. I enjoyed his character a lot more than Mads Mikkelsen's character.
Yeah, and that's fair, but
And they didn't really go into a whole lot of his backstory that I recall as far as Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, I was about to say, they did a fair amount into his backstory and his motivations, which I really enjoyed. When the London branch gets attacked and Doctor Strange gets knocked into the New York branch,
Right.
and he shows up there and attacks it, and Strange gets him locked up into this BDSM contraption or something, and
Yeah,
they talk,
okay. Yeah,
and
I
they
remember
talk, and Mads Mikkelsen's like, the Ancient One is lying to you, and then like lays out all of the reasons that he's doing
He's like,
what
look
he's
at all
doing."
these emails that we found that the Ancient One thought she deleted. Shows that she's drawing power from Dormammu's dimension.
Now, if the Hillary Clinton email leaks had something like that in them, it might be kind of relevant.
Well, apparently, and this is a little off topic, but some of the Donald Trump people on Reddit are trying to say that some things in the emails are code for like this child sex satanic cult thing. It's getting like ridiculous, but that's neither here nor there.
that is departing entirely from Doctor Strange, but it is still funny. That's still funny.
But okay, so Doctor Strange is Bernie Sanders, the Ancient One is Hillary Clinton, and Mads Mikkelsen's character is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, a metaphor for what's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
Right?
It's very timely. They picked a great time to release this movie.
Right before election, the
Yeah.
week before the election. Who knows?
It's all a conspiracy, man. It's all a media conspiracy.
WikiLeaks, dude. So I have one gripe about the movie. I think that the whole sentient cape thing is a little corny.
Yeah, it is, but I still liked it. It was still a good little bit of levity.
From what I have read about Doctor Strange is the Cloak of Levitation does have a certain level of sentience, but it was played up to much more comical effect in the movie than it was in the comic book.
No, and I feel like they felt like they needed some more levity in the movie itself, because it is kind of a very somber movie for the most part.
Well, when they first announced the movie, and the director, he comes from a horror background, so I was more expecting kind of a thriller type movie than the action movie that we got. And it's very much an origin story, and I think that once we get, now that we're past this part of Doctor Strange, once we see him more in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and maybe in another movie, then I might enjoy those a little more, because it just seemed kind of like he fell into this thing and all of a sudden now he's got these people that he's fighting against. All of a sudden now he has these principles that he's fighting for, and it just didn't seem like, I mean, it just, to me, the stakes weren't very high in this movie. You know, and I wasn't as invested in it as I could have been, like some other movies.
I do feel like the stakes not being high is not,
it's eye candy for sure.
Oh yeah, it's very much eye candy. But I feel like the stakes not being high is an understatement,
right?
Or an oversimplification, because the entire world could have been engulfed into the, I forget, the negative zone or whatever.
But nobody even knew it. But that's kind of one of the things that I liked about how they kind of explain away how no one knows about the whole mystical side of the Marvel universe, is because they can cast these mirror dimensions to where no one sees it. So like all these people are having these crazy battles, but they're all within this dimension that you don't see.
Yeah.
So no one, like, it could be happening right now in this very room. You never know. The Ancient One could be fighting Mads Mikkelsen's character's name. I keep forgetting. It's
Caecilius, I think was his name.
Caecilius or something. Christ, I don't know. The whole movie was a blur to me, and it's really weird because I'm sitting there all day today, knowing that we're going to do this podcast, knowing that we're going to talk about Doctor Strange, and I'm like, I don't remember a whole lot about
That's
it.
That's kind of why I initially was thinking, I'm going to see this twice. I'm going to see it with my girlfriend on Friday or Saturday, and then go again on Sunday before we record the show.
I should have just went today.
Yeah.
Going to movies late at night is a bad deal for me.
Yeah.
But hey, you'll live and learn, and
Yeah.
I'll definitely watch it again. I think it's a movie that deserves another viewing, especially one with more of my undivided attention. To it. So go see it if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, let us know what you think in the comments.
Absolutely.
Below. So speaking of campy stuff, I watched the animated Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders today, voiced with Adam West and Burt Ward, who played Julie Newmar.
Yeah,
too.
and Julie Newmar.
Oh man, she sounds like such an old lady in this. So everything that you ever thought was campy or ridiculous in the Batman television series starring Adam West was like turned up to 11 in this. Like almost every single bit of dialogue is all like alliteration,
and puns
and just Batman being so like annoyingly wholesome. We need to use the crosswalk, Robin. Even though we're fighting crime, we still have to abide by the law, and it's just so bizarre to see a Batman story, especially since the last animated Batman we got was The Killing Joke.
Right.
This is the polar opposite to that.
Yeah.
So it's worth a view, and there were some things that I was thinking about while watching it that I was wondering if they were going to address, because there was a few different actresses that played Catwoman in the original series, one of whom was black.
Yeah, Eartha Kitt.
Yeah, and I was like, so why'd they go with the white one? Well, there's a part where she kind of like poisons Batman, and he starts seeing double, and it splits off into the 3 different versions. And then I think they used an Eartha Kitt sound clip of her, which I thought that was great. And then there's a point where Batman is fighting some bad guys, and it's all just punching, and it's very like they're not killing anybody, and the villains are all.
Please tell me it still has the onomatopoeia that pops up on the screen
to a ridiculous extent, like it's like spork, flump, it's all the time in that, because they break out into a fight with someone like every 5 to 10 minutes. It's ridiculous. But there was one point where, and I thought this was great, where Adam West's Batman he's like, do you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. And I was like, that's fucking Michael Keaton said that as Bruce Wayne in Tim Burton's Batman in 1989. So that was a nice little callback. It's definitely worth watching if you're a Batman fan and are aware of the original series. I know a lot of the youth of today probably don't know much about it or have seen anything about it. And so they might not get it, and they might think it's a waste of time. I think it's perfect for kids. Yeah. There's no bad language, and they say like gosh and heck and, all that kind of stuff. There is kind of an allusion to Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson being gay. Really? In this. There's, they have an aunt that lives, or Bruce Wayne has an aunt that lives in the house with him. And they're always like running off to go fight crime, and they're telling her like, well, we're going fishing. And she's like, oh, I know your secret, you boys, and all that stuff. And I think it kind of, the way it was written and the way it was presented kind of makes you think that she thinks that they're gay, but at the end it's her thinking something else. But I thought that was an interesting little modern spin on it, because if you go back and you read some of the old Batman and Robin stories, the argument could be made that they were gay in the comic book, which sucks because Bruce Wayne's an adult male and Dick Grayson was a teenage boy. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But you know what? I would definitely recommend that people go see it. Really? Yeah. It's just ridiculous. It's stupid. It's silly. But it's a good time. Wholly entertaining. It's a good time. It's wholly entertaining. It's one of those, if you enjoy Batman, if you enjoy the original series, go see it. Or if you have young kids, because they're not going to pick up on like innuendos and stuff, hopefully. And want to be able to show them something that's, for the most part, very wholesome, yeah, go see it. But it's just, it's ridiculous. There's this part where, so Batman kind of turns evil for a little bit, and there's this part where Robin's trying to like stop him, and they have a a face-off with their utility belts. So it's all like, here's my bat cuffs. And he's like, well, here's my bat spray. And, it's just, they're all throwing all these different dumb props at each other, kind of like the bat shark repellent.
Right.
Kind of
I was
thing.
wondering if the bat shark repellent was
No,
going to
the
come
bat
into
shark
play.
repellent didn't come into play, but it's funny because they're analyzing this thing on the computer in the Batcave, and he's like, this supercomputer holds the information of 2 sets of encyclopedias. And they analyze this thing, and it's like a little punch card that falls out of the little slot. And it's just dumb and ridiculous. It's great. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about Return of the Caped Crusaders. I was excited about it whenever I heard that it was coming out, and I wasn't disappointed at all.
So back when we first talked about this, we had just seen the trailer for this one. But you mentioned that they were potentially making more of these.
Apparently, Adam West did sign on for a couple of them, and I would assume that it just depends on the success of this. Now, I've noticed a lot of the DC animated straight-to-video stuff isn't the highest production value, so they can't be spending a ton of money on these things. But I would assume if it makes enough money on video, like DVD, Blu-ray sales, and on-demand rentals, then I would say it's a safe bet that we might see some more in this alternate Adam West universe.
All right.
It's just really weird because you can kind of hear the age in their voices, especially with Catwoman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, but you want to move on?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so last week in Dirk Gently. Oh, my God. What's going on, Chris?
Oh, everything.
We get to see the holistic assassin in her underwear.
I mean,
I could just imagine how much she must smell. When I first started watching The Walking Dead back in the day, I just couldn't imagine them having sex with each other. Because I was just like, they've got to just stink so bad. All of them.
I mean, every now and then they reach a place that has running water.
Right, but she's covered in blood.
Yeah.
So anyway...
We
now
got
that we're past
so
that.
much. We got so much stuff.
But we still have so many questions.
Of course, and we're going to probably even after everything gets solved.
Well, like I was watching it this morning with my lady, and she had never seen an episode before, and I'm watching it, and she's like, "I don't know what's going on." I was like, "It's okay, because you wouldn't know what's going on anyway."
I mean, every episode we learn a little bit more.
Right. But every episode leaves us with more questions too. So give me a rundown on Dirk Gently. Because you just watched it. I watched it this morning. You're fresh.
So Dirk and I already forgot Julia McMahon's character's name, the dead guy.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Spring?
Yeah, Spring. So Dirk and Spring's bodyguard Farah go to Spring's house.
One of his houses.
Yeah. And are met by his estate lawyer.
Right.
Because he's doling out stuff from the will and all that stuff. And they get envelope that has a 3, a question mark, a 1, and an exclamation point.
Right.
3 questions, 1 answer.
1 answer.
Yeah. So they are at Spring's house. They're looking around. They find a secret room when they follow the map that was in that envelope.
It turns out Mr. Spring is not a wall enthusiast.
Not a wall enthusiast.
Was originally proposed and speculated by Mr. Gently.
Yes.
I love the absurdity of some of the dialogue in this.
But he even says the thing from the jerk. She hates this wall.
He hates these cans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like when he said that, I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But they beat down this wall. They find a door.
And there's all this equipment in there.
Yeah. And there's a machine. And there are things. And there's another piece of paper with a note on it.
Right. And a light bulb that turns on when Dirk Gently picks it up.
Yes.
What's the deal?
Exactly.
We don't know.
Exactly.
But it's
all another
connected.
question. And then, like at the end of the episode, hang on, I need to go out to my car to get the magic light bulb.
Yeah.
What magic light bulb?
Right.
Yeah. But Spring had left a note on his father's stationery in that room for Farah and Dirk. I forget what the first line was, but save her was the last bit, referring to his daughter, potentially.
Who is now, we've seen a flashback of when she meets Mr. Plinkett. I don't know his real name.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure they said it, but I forgot what it was. They meet him And she has questions too, and he's got answers. And he asks her if she knows who Lux du Jour is. She says no, and he gets like really offended. But here's the thing: in the previous episode, he had all this stuff on Lux du Jour. Well, we find out that Lux du Jour
was Lux du Jour.
was turned into that guy, and he's like, "No, I'm a rock star. I'm about to make a new album." And they're like, "Well, that's tough for you. We're gonna have to put you.
Yeah, you're in this guy now."
So could that technology that they found in the laundry room be like a mind switching device?
Potentially, which would bring me back to the cat.
The cat.
The kitten. Everybody keeps asking about the kitten.
Right.
What if Spring's mind was put into the kitten, while Lydia's mind was put into the corgi?
Dog. Oh, dude. You just blew my mind.
That, again, though, that's just one of those questions. It's a theory, obviously, at this point, but the kitten keeps coming into play. It's not mentioned very often, but I think it gets at least one mention per episode, except in this one.
Well, we also find that the electrician and the assassin, they were tied up, and the biker's friends were coming to kill them. Mm-hmm. And the assassin just miraculously, through just almost seems like coincidence, was able to kill everybody.
All of them.
And she told him before then that she's like, okay, so either I'm going to kill everybody and you're going to escape, or you're going to die, and then I'm going to kill everybody, or I'm going to kill some people and you're going to die, and then I'm going to kill the rest of them. It's funny. But what was interesting to me is that he said the same thing to her, whereas in the last episode, her and Dirk both said the same thing. Todd and the electrician character both said the same thing to the assassin and the detective.
Yes.
They're like, it's all real.
Yeah.
You know, and so the parallels between these two characters,
fucking brilliant.
Right. They're very interesting, and it's really interesting to see like where that's going to go, and I can't wait for those two characters to cross paths.
Right.
And hopefully she doesn't kill Dirk Gently.
Or Todd.
I mean,
or the electrician.
See,
I really
Todd,
like his character.
Right, and that's the problem I have. I think Todd is my least favorite character in the show.
You know, I feel like I can understand that.
You know, he's whiny, and he's just, I mean, I know that we're supposed to look at the show through his eyes.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the everyday, normal character that kind of,
I mean, he's living this life, so he literally cannot put himself into a state of disbelief. Like, right. You know, while we watch fantasy TV shows, we have our suspension of belief, because we have to accept that these are the things that are happening. But he is actively living this insanity.
Right.
It's impossible for him to put himself into a suspension of belief.
And here's a question that still hasn't been answered. When does time travel come into play? Because do you remember in the very first episode when he goes up to the room, he sees himself wearing like some ridiculous coat.
It's like a bellboy outfit or something.
No, he's wearing the bellboy, but he sees himself
that's right.
wearing like this weird coat or something, talking to somebody around a corner. We still haven't, I mean, that may be something that pays off. Who knows?
Sure
maybe even in the next season.
Probably.
And what all is being
least
planted
in the last episode.
Right. And that's what you got to think about, and especially in a weird show like this. Are they planting seeds this early for future seasons?
Potentially.
What if that never paid off this season, but we get it in the next?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it just keeps you watching. Mm-hmm. You know, Todd's sister. Okay,
she's wonderful.
She
by
is.
the way. Amanda is awesome in this show.
Super cute too. She kind of reminds me of that Zoe Deschanel type chick. But anyway, she gets out of the house finally. Tries to go grocery shopping and
takes Dirk's advice from the first episode,
and then thinks that she's caught on fire. And the Rowdy Three have been watching her, and they're very clearly following her to the grocery store because they're like 10 feet behind her in their van.
The whole time.
Right. Well, she has an episode in the grocery store. She goes outside and is kind of writhing on the floor. They all gather around her and breathe in whatever essence or whatever.
Yeah. Something. And, we still don't know what it is they're doing, but like they did the same thing to Dirk in Todd's apartment.
Right. And now...
But then, while they're doing that, Amanda has like visions. There are flashes of potentially the future or the past
or an alternate reality. I mean,
multiverse. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing about this show. It leaves us with more questions.
It's just like, and how far out can that show be? And my, like, already I'm thinking, like, okay, so this series is eventually going to come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll get a proper final season that will tie up all these crazy loose ends. And we're only like 3 episodes into the first season, and I'm already thinking, like, they're going to have a lot of loose ends to tie up, because it seems like as the show goes on, and if the show gets popular and retains an audience, and they keep making more and more seasons of this, they're going to be introducing more and more crazy, like, coincidences and stuff. So it's yeah, it's just one of those crazy shows. If you haven't seen it yet, please, by all means, give Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency a chance.
Check it the heck out, because I'm enjoying it beginning to where we are right now.
What was the name of the government agency? Blackwing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now that guy's got a new partner. And it seems like all of his partners...
I mean, it's the same partner that he's had for the whole 3 episodes.
No,
it's that same dumb
I thought
guy.
It was a different guy in the first one, because I thought the different guy like had like the sniper rifle. He kept wanting to shoot him, but this
guy clearly still wants to shoot everyone
right,
too.
But I'm not altogether positive that they're the same person.
I'm fairly certain it is, because it's a pretty dumb military guy. I
know, but what if that's the point? They're all just dumb military guys that are all just gung-ho about killing people. Because it seemed like they were meeting each other for the first time in this episode, and it didn't feel like a flashback to me.
Yeah,
and then he confronts Dirk, and Dirk's like, "No, I'm not going back. It's been 16 years or something." Which
they had a very father-son relationship.
How old is Dirk even at all?
I mean, he looks to be in his early 30s.
Yeah, so he could have been a teenager whenever they first met. And that's the thing. Max Landis, you're going to need to come up with some answers.
Well, and he said 16 years. That would have been the last time. So right. The last time that they saw each other. So they probably had a years-long relationship before that, because again, their relationship seems very father-son, disenfranchised father-son, obviously. But
potential romance between Todd and Farrah.
Yeah,
did you pick up on that?
Yeah, he's wanting to, obviously.
Dip in the chocolate. Yeah, boy. All right.
Get at it, Todd. We believe in you.
All right, so join us next week, and we'll hopefully get some more. The thing is
more questions, more answers.
It's like for every question that gets answered, it asks 2 more.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. 3 questions, 1 answer.
Right.
There you go.
I don't know. It seems like 1 answer equals 3 questions, though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm all right with it. I love it.
It's crazy. All right, so a shit ton of new trailers came out this last week. We got a Wonder Woman trailer, Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events, Lego Batman, and then T2.
Yeah.
Which isn't Terminator 2.
It is not. It is not, in fact, Terminator 2.
Trainspotting 2. So let's talk about the Wonder Woman trailer first.
Yeah. Dude, it looks awesome.
Right, and this really looks like their answer to Captain America, the First Avenger. I mean, it's set in the past. It definitely feels like it has kind of the same tone as that one, and I'm optimistic about this movie as much as I can be as a DC movie. Yeah, because as optimistic as I was about the Suicide Squad, it still didn't live up to my expectations. And with Batman v Superman being the train wreck that it was, I'm just it's hard to be optimistic.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's hard to be, oh my God, did you see the new Wonder Woman trailer? I can't wait to see it, because I'm going to go see it.
Yeah, no, you and me both, and I am, and that's kind of the thing. Like this trailer, the last trailer, the shit, even the teaser that we got first, they've all been subtly building my interest in the movie. Right. I already knew that I was going to go see it, but every trailer they release, and that's a trailer's job, is to make you want to see the movie. Right. But they're succeeding. It's an advertisement. They're succeeding really spectacularly for me, because I saw this one. I was like, oh, I want to see this movie.
Like, we do want to see these movies, but at what point are we just the built-in audience?
Well, I think we're already the built-in audience.
Because that there's a certain group of people that are just going to go see all of them. And I'm one of them, because I so want the DC universe to like work out and be good. But it just they seem to just be failing on every level.
So here's my suggestion to DC and Warner Brothers: use the Flash movie to reset this entire universe.
Right. But the Flash movie's in a lot of trouble too. The directors keep dropping out.
Yeah. Flashpoint this motherfucker.
Right.
We don't need Man of Steel to exist. We don't need Batman v Superman
definitely
to exist.
don't need that to exist. Suicide Squad was all right.
It was all right, but it still wasn't as good as I wanted it to be.
It was the okayest. It's been the okayest DC Universe movie that's come out since.
Well, shit. Even the Batman movie looks like it might be in a little bit of trouble now, too. Because you hadn't heard about this. I was reading a story on the IO9 that I follow. I post a lot of stuff for theirs on our Facebook page, which give us a like if you like. But I repost a lot of their stuff. But I saw this one and I was like, I don't know if I want to repost this one because it's still kind of speculative. But it seems like one of the... it was either the director or one of the executive producers of something else was talking to producers involved in the Batman movie, and they were telling him that the script for Batman is awful.
Just garbage.
Just fucking garbage.
Well, I mean, at this point, it's not surprising.
It is still fairly early in the pre-production phase for it. So
right. Well, they're still filming Justice League, aren't they? Or at least post-production in Justice League. I know we've gotten a teaser for it already.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see how it works out. Hopefully, I mean, Ben Affleck has got some credibility when it comes to direction and writing.
Yeah.
Okay? So, hopefully he can...
I mean, he has an Oscar for the best original screenplay for Good Will Hunting.
Right.
But he co-has that with Matt Damon.
Right.
And I don't know which one of them wrote more of that movie.
But he's also written and directed movies that have been critically acclaimed.
Yeah, Argo.
Since then.
Argo won an Oscar.
Right. So let's...
several Oscars.
Yeah, let's not forget about those. It's not all about Good Will Hunting. But so he has that credibility. So hopefully he can turn around. But let's get back to this Wonder Woman trailer.
Yeah.
It looks like the villain is going to be an old villain from the comic book series that I just recently even heard about, named Dr. Poison, which is a dumb fucking name for a villain. And, you know, if you go back into that, like, golden era of comic books, some of the fucking names for these villains and heroes is just so stupid. Matter Eater Lad, who could eat anything. You know, it's just dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to see DC Universe tackle Plastic Man.
Dude, Plastic Man is awesome. Like, I've watched, like, the Justice League Unlimited animated series. Plastic Man is awesome.
He was hilarious. But, you know, they've failed miserably with Reed Richards twice now.
Yeah.
Or 3 times if you count the sequel for the first Fantastic Four.
The Rise of the Silver Surfer.
That you almost would need to have a comedy. And why not do, like, just a straight up comedy out of a comic book movie? I mean, we did it with Deadpool.
Worked.
And even to some extent Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So why not have DC do just like a straight up comedy, like a zany Plastic Man? Because that would work. And it would work
the
with
Zack
character.
Snyder Murderverse is grimdark.
Well, hopefully they can kind of, you know,
That's
move
what I'm
away
saying.
from that.
Flashpoint this shit. Eliminate the Zack Snyder Murderverse.
Well, speaking of DC movies, okay, because we can move on. I mean, Wonder Woman looks good, but we can move on to some other trailers. The DC movie trailer that I'm most looking forward to is Lego Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved the Lego movie. It was fucking fantastic.
Everything is awesome.
Beautiful movie, too. It almost, like, if you didn't know it was CGI, it almost looks like it would have been stop motion using real Legos.
Yeah.
And it looks like that's the same thing that they're doing in this one.
Very much so. Based on the new trailer.
The great thing about the trailers that I've seen for the Lego Batman movies is they're very, like, meta and just straight up comedy.
Yeah.
Which is what we need. I mean, we, you know, with the Tim Burton Batman movies being so, like, out there, like goth style, you know, gothic look to it. And then you've got the Joel Schumacher just campy ridiculousness. And then you've got the real life, this can really happen, Christopher Nolan Batman movies. And now we've got the Zack Snyder Murderverse Batman. Please give me some fucking comic relief at this point.
Please, for the love of God.
Give me a movie that makes fun of all that shit. Because I remember whenever Batman v Superman came out, there was the first time I'd ever seen a Lego Batman trailer. It was Batman and Alfred having a talk about all his previous incarnations and showing, like, clips from Batman Returns and from Batman v Superman and from the Joel Schumacher movies and stuff. So it's gonna. I think it's really gonna be very self-referential, and it's just gonna be such a light-hearted comedy that it's gonna be, I think, more of like a sigh of relief, kind of like the Return of the Caped Crusaders on a much smaller level was.
Yeah.
But this is definitely gonna appeal to a wide audience.
Oh yeah,
because I mean, Batman stole the show in the Lego Movie.
he did.
And,
Will Arnett is great.
And I'm so glad that they decided. And whenever I first heard, they're doing a Lego Batman movie, it's probably going to suck. But then I saw the Lego movie and I was like, it might be good. And then I started seeing the trailers and it's like,
this is going to be awesome.
This is going to be great.
And Michael Cera is playing Robin.
Yeah, and I saw Zach Galifianakis in the cast list. I need to find out who he's playing.
I bet he's the Joker.
It's possible. I like that little exchange between
in this
the
latest
two of
trailer.
them. He's like,
I'm your greatest villain, or something like that.
I'm your greatest enemy. He's like, no, that's Superman. He's like, but he's like,
Superman's a good guy.
Oh, well, I don't really have a bad guy now. I'm kind of, fighting a bunch of different
and
people.
And the Joker's just got
his
this
lips quivering.
No!
His lips quivering. It's great. And it's just like maybe that, that relationship between arch nemesis and good guy is something that's not really explored in any comic book movie, really. What happens whenever you decide you're not my arch nemesis anymore, this other guy, he's the one I'm going to devote my life to fighting. You're like, oh. Kind of reminds me, if you're watching this, look up Nemesis by Jonathan Colton. It's a song about this guy, and he's like, please be my nemesis. But anyway,
Lego Batman movie.
Batman movie
awesome.
Looks
can't wait.
Fucking tastic. So also we got the Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events trailer.
They are making a Netflix series
with Barney.
Neil
Patrick Harris is in it.
Yes.
And he looks so much like the Jim Carrey version.
He does.
Now, I never read any of the books. Did you?
I did not ever read any of the books either, but I saw the movie, and from what I understand, Jim Carrey's makeup and look was pretty much perfect, spot on to the description in the books. And that's why Neil Patrick Harris also has a very similar look and build, because, they're still trying to go as close to the description in the books as possible.
Well, and I think that generally with an anthology series like that series of books where apparently it's like different stories. Like I saw the series of unfortunate events movie, and apparently it covered like 4 books worth of material.
I think it was 3, but yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So I think a slow burn series is definitely the way to go. And I love the trend these days of television series being based off of series of books. Because we didn't get that a lot back in the day.
I feel like Olaf's physical description is so important because of the fact that he impersonates other people, steals identities, and just generally tries to disguise himself.
Right.
So those physical attributes that he has, his giant hooked nose, his thin, lanky frame, that stuff is important because when you meet those characters that he's, pretending to be, they know immediately, oh, look at this dude's nose. It's frickin' Olaf again.
Dude, Corey Feldman wishes he had the kind of comeback that Neil Patrick Harris has had.
Dude, Neil Patrick Harris...
I remember Doogie Howser.
Yeah, exactly.
But then he just kind of disappeared for a long time, and now he's...
It started with Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Movies are so good. But he was also in Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, I do.
But...
do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. But yeah, he was Doogie Howser, and he was kind of, child star of the month for like a good year or two, and then all of a sudden you never heard from him again, and then all of a sudden, bam, Neil Patrick Harris is everywhere. And then How I Met Your Mother was brilliant, and now he's just in all these other things, and he's like really ramping up to be, a really good comedic actor, which I'm proud of him.
Yeah.
Good on you, Neil Patrick Harris.
Way to not fall into the Corey Feldman trap.
Get on Google and Google his, him and his partner have, I guess, adopted 2 children.
Yeah.
Get on there and look at their Halloween outfits that they do with each other.
What did they do this year?
I think they did a Star Wars theme. I'm not sure. I just saw a whole gallery of them. So
because they do something awesome every year, and they're always great.
So I'm definitely going to look forward to that. That's going to be one of those things that I'm going to binge watch.
Oh yeah.
So there's one more trailer that came out this week that I want to talk about, and that's T2. Trainspotting 2.
Exactly.
Who would have thought that we would
20 years
ever
later.
get a sequel to Trainspotting.
Honestly, because you would expect the characters from Trainspotting
To be dead.
Be dead. Long
Right.
dead. 20 years after the events of the first Trainspotting movie, those guys should all be dead based on how much drugs they do throughout the course of the first one.
Right. Now, that movie had kind of a stigma when I was a kid of being like a drug movie.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it. And I say as a kid, I was more of a teenager because 20 years ago I was like 15. So I watched it. I've only ever seen that movie once. And the only thing I really remember is the toilet scene.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I remember it's shite being Scottish.
Yeah.
And then the Choose Life monologue, which they did another version of that in this trailer.
In the new trailer, yeah.
So I think I want to see this movie.
I really do.
But I think we need to watch the original Trainspotting.
We're gonna have to rewatch it
Yeah.
because you and I have both only seen it once.
Right. So let's make a deal. We'll do the original Trainspotting because this comes out in what, February, January?
Yeah, late January.
We'll watch the first Trainspotting and then we'll go and see it in the theater. And then we'll talk about it on the podcast.
I would even doubt that they would have it at our theater.
Well, I'm sure that another theater 30 minutes away would have it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we could probably see it. But there was some drug use in this as well. So
Which kind of surprised me because at the beginning of the trailer, all the characters that you see Ewan McGregor's character, you see Johnny Lee Miller's character, they both look like they're clean.
Well, apparently, I mean, you saw clips of people behind bars, so maybe he spent that last 20 years trying to get clean.
Mhm.
Who knows? But from what I've read, this is loosely based on a sequel book that was written to the original story, where it took place 9 years after. Now, apparently, this movie takes place 9 years after the original movie, but they waited 20 years to so they could age more, because a heroin addict would age a lot more in 9 years than someone who doesn't do heroin.
Well,
that's just what I've heard.
No, because there was a line in the trailer. They talk about 2 decades, 20 years. They do.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, Chris.
You are.
I'm not right about everything.
Wow.
But
It's heartwarming to hear you say that.
you heard it here first, folks. But I'm definitely going to go see all 4 of those movies.
Oh, yeah.
Wonder Woman, Trainspotting 2, Lego Batman, and then we'll watch that Netflix series
when it comes out.
Yeah. So speaking of Netflix series, we had talked about Black Mirror.
A couple of times on the show.
Yeah, a couple times on the show, and I had kept saying, "Oh, I've never seen it. I've never seen it." Well, that's changed.
Yeah.
Over this last week, I've watched quite a bit of episodes. The majority of the second season, I kind of started in the middle of it, with the episode "Shut Up and Dance," which is about the kid who gets the video sent to him of him jerking off, and is made
so you're talking about the third season, because you said the second season. I was confused there for a second.
Made to go out and do things like deliver a cake and then rob a bank and fight someone to the death because he's afraid of a video of him jerking off going out. And that episode in itself, up to that point, up to right before the ending, was disturbing enough. But then when you find out that the kid was jacking off to kiddie porn, it kind of throws a whole new spin on it.
Like, you felt bad for this kid the entire
whole time. Yeah. And that kid's a great actor too, because he definitely portrayed that, and Braun's in it.
Yeah.
Braun.
Yeah.
But that kind of threw me for a loop, and I ended up watching the next few episodes of that season.
The new season, the one that just came out.
The one with the mechanical bees, and the one where you die and you upload your brain into the San Junipero or whatever.
Did you watch the one with the horror game?
No.
Oh, I can't believe you didn't watch that one. You missed one of the best.
Well, I've been kind of reading through the Black Mirror subreddit and kind of seeing what episodes they suggest to watch, because the cool thing about this show is that it's an anthology. Not one episode is connected to the other.
Nope.
So I don't have to watch them in any kind of order.
Yeah.
So today I watched the episode White Christmas with
Yeah.
John Hamm. That was the one they were like, if you ever start Black Mirror, start at White Christmas. And that kind of like, after I watched that episode, I turned off the TV. I went outside and sat outside for like 5-10 minutes, and then was just like, I need to get out of the house. And just, it's just one of those things. And I saw something on one of the subreddits that they were like, I just finished watching an episode of Black Mirror. I turned my TV off and I noticed all the electronics around me. And you're like, okay. So the other episodes that I've watched of Black Mirror were the episode where the Prime Minister has to
that's
fuck
the
a
very
pig.
first episode. That's
Has
the
to
very
fuck a
first
pig
episode.
on TV just for shits and giggles. Okay.
Just for the lulz.
And I also watched the episode of the guy where they're pedaling the exercise bikes and trying to earn points, and and it's just
Get
like,
into like the
this is
singing
so
competition
depressing.
reality show.
And then she has
See,
to do
okay.
porn, and it's just so like depressing.
I
And the
have a-
episode where they're, I'm sorry, let me, one more thing. The Mechanical Bees,
Yeah.
the San Junipero episode, and the episode where it's the dude in the army, and they're referring to the unclean people as roaches, but they see them, as monsters, but they're not really monsters. And oh man, what a show.
Okay, so you said the key word. I mean, you said the word of the day when referring to Black Mirror. Depressing.
Yes.
Except for San Junipero.
Right. Now that had kind of a happy
That
ending.
had a happy...
At first...
I watched that episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to the end of it. I was like, something horrible has got to go wrong. Something terrible. Because I have watched every episode of Black Mirror up to this point, and something terrible happens at the end and throughout the course of every episode.
Right around the middle of the second act, or towards the end of the second act of each episode, is where it just gets fucked up.
Yeah.
It was like, oh shit.
San Junipero comes around. I watched the entire episode. I'm like, something has to go wrong. This is Black Mirror. Something has to go wrong. Nothing goes wrong.
They kind of throw you for a loop, though, because you kind of think at the end of that episode that the black chick isn't going to join the other girl.
Yeah.
Because she's like, and so then you're like, oh no, now this girl has to live in this fake world forever without her true love. But then she shows up. Interesting side note on that episode is the girl who plays the white girl in it, is in *Halt and Catch Fire*. I know I brought that show up a lot of times, but yeah, she plays a character in that.
Yeah, I knew
show.
I recognized her. I couldn't remember from what, so I actually IMDb'd her while I was watching the episode, and I saw that, she was in *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Well, what's crazy is that episode takes place largely in like an 80s version of
quote-unquote 80s,
this cloud universe, and so does *Halt and Catch Fire*. So I was like, hey, cool. But yeah, man, that... I can't wait to finish the rest of them. Yeah. But wow, that such a crazy, like everything has to do with technology and everything. It almost seems like it's all about us being imprisoned by technology.
It's a very nihilist show.
And see, I try to be more like utopian instead of dystopian about the future.
You and me
both,
in general.
Because there was a documentary on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there, but it's called The Transcendent Man. And it's about this guy named Ray Kurzweil, who basically has this whole theory that eventually San Junipero will be a reality. Eventually you'll be able to upload your consciousness into the cloud and live forever in the cloud. Which you see that in that episode, but you also see like a dark side of that in the White Christmas episode, because, we've put this thing in your head that basically thinks it's you, and then we take it out and now it's like your little home helper. But like the people that are doing it, they don't realize what they're doing to this digital version of their consciousness. Also, another episode I watched was the fucking episode where the people have like the eye thing and like the strain on a marriage that puts. And I was just like, how horrible would that be to be either in the husband or the wife's situation? Because maybe she shouldn't have cheated, but at the same time, like I would hate to be him too. And at the end he fucking cuts it out with a razor blade. And oh man, because at first I'm like, oh, that's cool, I want one of those implants. And then you see the dark the grim dark reality of that kind of technology. It's
the show is mind-blowing. And I was telling you this, like long before when I heard that they.
It takes me a while, dude.
No, I'm not faulting. I'm not faulting you at all. I'm just saying, like, it's hard to describe Black Mirror, but the show is beautiful. It's tragic. It's haunting.
Yeah.
And
it really
makes you fucking think.
It really makes you think, and the more that, like, because I am such a lover of technology and such a cheerleader of technology, to the point where I'm like, how amazing is it that we have literally the wealth of the world's knowledge in the palm of our hands, and we take it with us wherever we go. And how amazing is that? But it could very well take a dark turn, like that. The episode where with the exercise bikes. I forgot the name of that episode, but that's like very like 1984 Orwellian kind of and bleak, gray, just ugh.
And the
reality.
thing is, like, while it plays off of a little bit of the 1984 dystopian ideals, at the same time, it is still rooted, like that episode specifically, rooted in the public's obsession with reality TV.
Yeah. And social media and dumb games for fake internet points.
And the bees, the mechanical bees episode, trolling.
Trolling. And the Shut Up and Dance episode.
Trolling.
End with the troll face.
With the troll face JPEG.
Troll face, yeah. And they were just like, they were doing this to these people, ruining these people's lives. Of course, they did horrible things, but they're ruining these people's lives just for fun of it.
Yeah.
Just like, got you.
For the lulz.
For the lulz. So, I don't know. It's I like to think of myself as a very progressive, liberal person. But at what point do we say, here's where we need to draw the line and not move further? Not progress any further beyond what point?
Yeah. I will say, the next episode of that show that you need to watch is episode 2 from this latest season.
Okay.
It's about a guy who's backpacking around the world. He ends up in England, and there is a game developer who's testing out new stuff, and he gets involved in that. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
That episode fucked my life up.
So if you were talking to somebody who had never seen the show,
I would still say White Christmas. I would still say White Christmas, and then the episode that I'm talking about.
Game. I really think that I started on a really good one, the Shut Up and Dance, because at first you're just like, oh my God, this is horrible, this is terrible. How bad would that be if that happened to you? And
it is kind of similar to the very first
but
episode
at the end,
that Black Mirror ever released, was the Prime Minister one. And again, he's just being trolled.
Right. But he didn't have like this dark skeletons in his closet like this kid did.
Well, he did after he did the thing.
But like that episode, Shut Up and Dance, and I immediately got on Reddit and started reading like reactions to that episode. And some of them were saying that that was their favorite episode. And so that's going to be the thing. I'm going to have to watch the rest of them, of course. But what if you were going to introduce the show, listeners at home, to somebody who has never seen it, put in the comments which episode would you want them to start on?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't want them to start with San Junipero, because that might give them a false sense.
That would be the episode I would be like, okay, we've seen all these horrible episodes, now we're gonna watch this one.
Yes. It's a palate cleanser. It's a palate cleanser, honestly.
Some eye bleach. Honestly, I would think on a series like that, maybe it would be a good idea to have a more upbeat ending, happier ending per season, maybe every third season. I don't know. I don't know. I still have a lot to watch.
Oh yeah,
I still do. So that's going to be the episode for this week, episode 13. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Make sure 14. You like the videos, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and shoot us an email or tweet us,
or send us a smoke signal. SOS fucking
what are those,
telegraph.
What are those things that they wave at airplanes?
Yeah, those flags, the little flag symbols. Do all that.
Morse code.
Send us a telegram.
Western Union has some money. Absolutely, Western Union has some money,
but not a lot, like 50 cents.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good week.